Hey guys, it's Lauren, Dean of the ROCKETJump Film School, and for the months of December and January, we're trying something a little bit different. So, as you probably have heard, our new show, ROCKETJump, the show, is premiering December 2nd on Wednesday. This new show lets you follow the ROCKETJump family as we create the 8 biggest shorts we've ever done. So each week as a new ROCKETJump the Show episode airs, we're going to take something interesting from that episode and go into more technical detail. We're really excited to introduce this new type of video, which gets you on set with us. So over the next 2 months, let us know what you think so we can share our experience in the best way possible. So, yeah. Thanks guys, enjoy the next 2 months, and look forward to a really cool new curriculum based on your suggestions next year.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Symonds. I'm the CCO of RocketJump and a writer here too.
Hey, what's up? I'm Nathan Koepp. I was story producer on ROCKETJump the Show.
I guess to sort of take you back to the very beginning, it was Ben Waller here created the show and he brought it to Matt and Freddie. He's like, hey, we want to find a way to make shorts, and we've always done behind the scenes here, so what if we just take this thing that ROCKETJump is and we turn it into a show and we just do the biggest version of that we've ever done. So we're like, yeah, that sounds amazing, that sounds perfect. And then we set about the path of trying to figure out how to actually do that.
On any given day, there would be multiple things happening with multiple people. Because again, all the shorts were happening about the same time. Ashley might be doing a pre-production meeting, Clint might be doing a shot listing meeting, Matt and Freddie might be doing a location scout. A lot of it was just prioritization in terms of what I thought the most powerful story would be, and also trying to get the pieces that I knew that we'd need later down the line. Another thing too is there's a lot of moving around. So if I had the option or the availability to do that, I'd be constantly just cycling through the entire office during the pre-production segment. The fact that if you're not moving, then there's, that's a problem. You need to be consistently always searching for a story. Exactly, yeah, absolutely. Because if you just stop and you say, I guess that's all the story we need for today, you're gonna be missing stuff.
Yeah, there was this great thing where Freddie went off to New York to do the Hulu upfronts, and it was this big, cool little story.
Hulu was the only company that was crazy enough to let me and my idiot friends do whatever we wanted with their money.
But ultimately, it didn't fit in any other story for the shorts, and so we kind of had nowhere to put it. You're constantly rewriting the show, even as you're filming and going along.
So it was myself operating as story producer and A camera.
Alan Chadakowski was operating B cam.
And then Armin Monahan, who was C camera.
And Ben Waller, our showrunner, oftentimes grabbed a camera and helped out too.
Now, I would always camp out in different kind of strategic locations on set. Alan would be stationed just outside of set. And then Armin would be going through and he'd be getting all kinds of cool B-roll slider shots and setting up GoPros and doing time lapses and stuff. And he was also the person that we talked to on the radios as far as making sure that stuff was logged. With this show, we didn't necessarily have the luxury of lighting. Thankfully, Ben made the decision before he even came onto the show to invest in a couple Sony FS7s. It was a camera that gave us 14 stops of dynamic range, which just meant that we had a ton of flexibility in terms of posts and in terms of low light capability. And that was essentially the camera team. And then we also had Kevin Senzaki, who was our audio master. And he was set up with a boom microphone and sort of like a Batman belt, which was a Zoom H6 with 4 lav receivers hooked into it. And it kind of looked like an octopus, I think Ben described it. But essentially what that did is it was a nice low-cost solution for us that allowed Kevin a lot of mobility.
We've actually gotten really good at moving around the balls. It's nothing, it's super easy.
The initial thought was that we would kind of stick to more traditional reality aesthetics, which means super wide, really super flat, everything's in focus. I remember just filming a meeting just in a wide, and I was like, this is so boring. I can't see a situation where we'd ever do this. And I was like, well, okay, let's be a little more stylized with it, and started doing kind of more traditional cinema kind of style cinematography, getting over the shoulder shots, thinking about, okay, so, what's really the interesting story here?
When we're talking about Ashley jumping in and directing for the first time, and it's there's a great shot of her in the big meeting, and you got of her, she's sort of sitting back and she's sort of smaller as everybody's kind of over the thing, and it's this cinematic expression of the thing that you're trying to get at in the story. And it's you have this, one of my favorite things, there's this great shot you have with Clint, where he's on set and he's worried about Matt and Freddie's overpowering or dominating on set, and just the way you shot it is you get over Matt's shoulder, he's larger in the frame, and you can sort of see Clint slinking down, and it's again, what I love about it is it's cinema. It's just good old-fashioned cinematography, storytelling, thinking visually. And if you can do that, where you're not just like trying to capture everything that happens in space, and you can just zero in and think about like, okay, how is this person feeling? How can I show that with how I'm shooting it?
Absolutely.
It's you know, it's just basic fundamentals.
On a very basic level, it's what does this person want?
Yeah.
You know, or what does this person need?
Yeah.
And what do they, you know, it's always just trying to find, you know, that narrative arc, you know?
I was gonna say, the first thing about interviews is get them early. If we had jumped in earlier, we would have had more of a guide. Like interviews will be a guide for you as far as figuring out what people are feeling, what people want to talk about. So really, really important.
Yeah. The choice was made logistically, I think, to do all of our interviews at the very end.
Yeah.
Which I know both of us were kind of like, ooh, yeah, okay. But we made it work.
Yeah.
But on a show like this, you know, there's no time to be like, oh, hey, like, let's stop, okay? You know, I need an interview with you guys. Let's come over here. There's just, unfortunately, there's no time on set to do that. So in an ideal interview situation, if you're a big fan of words that have the same, you know, wow, that was terrible. If you're a fan of alliteration and you like having 3 words that all start with the same letter, you can think of like an ideal interview in terms of reference, revelation, and reflection. So reference is essentially like the what, like what's going on. Revelation is the why. Why is that going on? Like, why is that happening? And reflection is like it's the how, but it's the how of how someone's feeling. So that's really the most critical part of the 3 as far as on-set interviews go. That's the one that you really want to concentrate on, because emotion is what's really going to drive your story. You can always provide context in other ways, other interviews, and get around that. But you probably only have that one opportunity to get that raw emotion in that very moment. I usually default to, you know, how are you feeling?
How do you guys feel right now?
Good.
How are you feeling, Ben?
I'm really nervous.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? I'm petrified.
And I'm sure people got sick of me asking that all the time, but how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Because that was something that really gave, you know, some of the most rich moments of the entire show.
Yeah, and it gives them the space to actually say how they're feeling.
Absolutely.
Again, we wanted to make something that was honest to filmmaking. We didn't want people to like feel like we were setting up situations that were in like amped up drama. We didn't want to create conflict. But at the same time, we wanted to get the natural conflict, and most importantly, the way you overcome that conflict. Because that's how you make good films, is you are presented with problems, and then you find the way to overcome those problems. And that's ultimately what it's about. And I hope and I think that we managed to get at some things that really explain that, because I think that's the heart of making good films.
When you're doing like more narrative kind of work, like you write it, you go through the whole process, and then you shoot it. With a documentary kind of setting, you're basically just positioning yourself as best you possibly can to get what you need to tell a story. And by nature, you're only going to use a fraction of that. But don't get discouraged by that.
Exactly.
You know, don't get discouraged, because it's all about sifting away all the stuff that doesn't work, all the stuff that's not important, and finding that gold.
Yeah.
And something that's also important is making sure that you have those conditions where you can get that gold. Yeah. You know, luck really is where opportunity meets preparation. Yeah. And that absolutely goes for getting the best possible footage you can.
And it's funny, so much of what we're talking about here was, you know, going into pre-production, going into production, but like when you get into post on a documentary, it is a whole other conversation, and I think we'll talk about that next time.
Definitely. But for right now, enjoy the show.